Isn't that moon a great creation? Aren't you glad we have a moon? It's nice. We have a planet and we have a moon. Let me find the, this is Friday morning at 6:15, and this is the case of Glendora versus Wasserstein. The American Lawyer Media Incorporated, George M. Delahaye, and Lee Jones and Julia C. Mead, the New York Law Journal. This is the person, well, they all got paid to write everything good about Cablevision and everything bad about Glendora and the public access movement. And so they got sued in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Arkansas. And it seemed like a good court, and I've told you several times it's a good court. I will read you this order, and you tell me what you think of it. And then I'll tell you what I think of it. On August 28th, 2000, the magistrate judge granted plaintiff's motion to proceed in form of pauperous, but found that service upon defendants is not appropriate at this time. Well, that's wrong. Service upon defendants is appropriate every time. The case was reassigned to the undersigned, and his name is George Howard, United States District Judge, Junior. The court, junior judges and senior judges. The court has reviewed the complaint, which is hardly a model of clarity. It contains rambling allegations regarding provision of cable services. The court is unable to determine the nature and basis plaintiff's claims against defendants and the basis for federal court jurisdiction. Additionally, plaintiff does not indicate why venue or jurisdiction is appropriate in Arkansas. That is, there is no indication that either plaintiff resides here or that any of the actions giving rise to plaintiff's complaint occurred in the Eastern District of Arkansas. Plaintiffs granted 30 days to file an amended complaint setting forth a basis for venue and jurisdiction in this court, as well as a short and plain statement of the basis upon which he seeks relief. Failure to comply with his order will result in dismissal of the complaint. It is so ordered this 15th day of September 2000, George Howard, Jr. And it was filed on that same day. Well, what would you do with that? Okay, here's what I did with it. It's in another office. I'll go get it. This is a wastebasket that goes with it. Do you know you cannot write a legal paper without a wastebasket? Here's the paper. Notice of motion for relief from order. Pursuant to Rule 60B, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Glendora sees no necessity to amend her complaint. It can be easily ingested by anyone of ordinary intellect who takes the time and does his duty to read it. 1. The movement is Glendora. 2. The return date is October 31st, Halloween. 3. The location is courtroom of George Howard, 226 U.S. Courthouse, 600 West Capitol Avenue, Little Rock, Arkansas, 72201. Relief requested is stated in the title herein. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 60B. The grounds are there is no better way to state the claims against the defendants than as they are now in Glendora's complaint of July 29, 2000. Supporting papers are the complaint, Glendora's Labor Day Memorandum, and Glendora Rule 55 motion for default judgment of instead of putting it down the sewer. So chat with Glendora is getting cleared up. It's taken since 7 o'clock this morning, and it must be almost 2 now. Now, 8mm tape C did not have any of the crinkles in it. So, maybe it's a matter of the tape. It's not a matter of the battery because the crinkles were there when we had it on AC. Isn't that cute little kitty? Franklin, I found a tape, a special last week that I took to Brooklyn. In Brooklyn, I found out couldn't play it because it wasn't on Super VHS. Yeah. So you send it to Amy Galimbo. So the 3/4 inch tapes have been labeled, and the VHS tapes have been labeled. But we tried something new since you don't know what the contents is going to be on each tape until you edit it. We left off the name of the cable system and the date. We put on the date as October 30th week. You think that will work? That's something very new and different. The VHS are all labeled. There's the first edition, the second, and the third, the fourth edition, and the fifth edition. And there'll probably be 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and so forth. There goes the street cleaner. All right, there's the satchel. I will pack that up and put away, chat with Glendora, I hope at last. And there's the backpack. These are the 3/4 inch tapes. These are the VHS tapes. This is the wrappers that a man gave us to recycle. And this is the return box. And there's 2 cross rivers in there, and there should be 2 from the Bronx. This is 2 hidden truth. Okay, come on in.
Yeah, taking pictures, huh?
Yeah, take your pictures. Here's the grocery.
All right. Wonderful. That's beautiful. How's everything?
Oh, good. We're putting away the TV program.
Yeah, oh, nice. That's, how's your husband?
Oh, he's good. He's right around the corner.
Yeah?
Yeah, this is the rest of the tapes to mail. These are the tapes that go to New Rochelle and White Plains on Thursday. This watch goes back to Bradley's for a battery. This goes back to Office Essentials. The $90 cartridge is no good. And it ruined about 1/5 of a ream of paper. What's in that one over there?
The local tapes.
Our flag we will have to rehang. Those are the local tapes?
Yeah.
Oh, what's over here?
I don't know.
Oh, those are the napkins and the plastic bags for walking Rusty. The living room is tidy. The foyer is tidy. But now the dining room. This is all a chat with Glendora. And it all has to be put away. Into the video closet. And the groceries have to be put away. And the plants have to be watered. So, first of all, folks, I'm reporting to you about what happened Tuesday when we left Lynbrook editing. We went up to Bethpage, and I made my 60th demand for my statutory right to see the Cablevision shareholders list. First of all, I'll play you this tape of Tom DeLuca, who's telling me that Mike Gallagher on WABC TV radio, or rather WABC radio, is trying to get in touch with Glendora. Now I'll play you that, and then you will hear what happened at Bethpage. And this is Tony LaValliere and Paul Ryan beating the spirit out of Helen Johnson and Marie Di Gregorio, the receptionist. These men are terrible to these women. So we're chauvinism that I've seen this month. Here are, first of all, Tom DeLuca.
Okay? Yeah, and I'll be down at noon. Okay. And we'll load him into the 1980 Lincoln. We'll take him up and hope this works. Gee, it would be nice.
Chat with Glendora is done. 2 p.m., 7 hours.
2000. Sunday. 4 p.m.
I heard your name being mentioned all over the radio. It was Saturday morning, and the speaker was a
Speaker was Mike Gallagher.
Chester and someone else. Did you know that?
No, that's wonderful. Thank you for telling me.
Yes, he was on 770 AM.
Oh, that's good. Did he, that's good. Did he say...
I tried to call him.
What's that?
I tried to call him to tell him.
Yeah, that you are my friend.
Yes, but I never got through.
Did he say anything good about Glendora?
I didn't hear what the reference was about. All I heard was, I'd like to know more about this person.
Oh, good. He should call me. My telephone number's up all the time. It's about crooked judges and corrupt lawyers.
Right.
Right, and also business corporations who violate the public's rights.
Well, I'm surprised I didn't realize that because, you know, Allstate Insurance Corporation.
Oh, yeah, I told your story on the TV. I played your tape. It's 4:09 p.m. We were at the airplane factory. Franklin is getting out, going in, and signing in, and sitting down. I'm going to take the car across the street.
4:09 p.m.
To their property.
Tuesday, October 10. Bethpage, the airplane factory, Cablevision.
2 p.m. Good, Helen. How are you? Hi, Marie. How's the baby? Baby's cute, huh? Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm a shareholder. New York state law says I have a right to see the shareholder record if I make a demand, and I made a demand. So, may I please see the shareholder record? Time is 4:17 p.m. Citizen, yes. All right, look, person with citizen.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Shareholder record.
Yeah, hi, Jackie. Can you let me know that Glendora is here and she wants to see the shareholder record? Thanks. Bye.
How are you, Helen?
I'm well, thank you. Cold.
Yeah.
And I
We hunted around yesterday. We found our long underwear.
Yeah, you needed
Yeah, we got it out.
You needed this.
We're going to get it. Put it on pretty soon.
You think we're going to have a cold winter?
I don't know, but I was so disappointed we didn't have any August.
Oh,
It was all rain.
didn't have any
It was all rain.
at all.
No, July was good.
Front desk, Helen speaking. Yes. Glendora is here. She would like to have the shareholder record. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Thanks, Helen.
See you, Glendora.
Yeah, stay well. Okay. Take care. Where's your wastebasket? Right over there. I didn't see him. On the shareholder, New York state law says I have a right to see the shareholder list if I make a demand in writing, and I did make a demand in writing. So please show me the shareholder list. Time is 4:20 p.m. We're waiting. Okay? Good afternoon. So we can wait until Thursday on all those, right? When you go to Harrison and
Franklin and I are sitting waiting for the goons to show up.
Value just went by, and Paul Ryan just went by. Statutory right to see the shareholders list. Please show it to me. I have a statutory right to see the shareholders list.
To see the shareholders list.
Okay, why are you breaking the law? You're breaking the law.
Going to see the shareholders list.
Why? I have a statutory right to see it.
Company is not going to make the shareholders list
I have a statutory right to see it.
available to you.
You cannot do that. This is against New York law.
Business.
I am. I'm here to see a shareholders list. I'm conducting shareholders business, and I'm staying here until I see it.
Thank you very, very much. Your business here as of now is complete.
It is not. I have not seen the shareholders list, so don't boss me around.
Nor have we seen anybody
Yeah.
in the legal department or the executive department. And
Who gives you authority to do this?
it only seems reasonable that somebody should come
The
out
value is shaking.
and talk to us. That's reasonable. And I'm telling you,
But you have no authority.
not so to be made available to you.
All right, I'm waiting until it is.
Be made available to you on
What?
your rules and shareholders list being made available to you on an unlimited basis.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean on an unlimited basis? What does that mean?
On an unlimited basis.
What's that mean? Answer my question.
I think
What does unlimited basis mean? And who told you that? Who told you that?
our business is complete.
My business is not complete. I'm here to see the shareholders list.
Effective, our business is complete.
Well, you can say it's complete, but isn't.
I'm requesting you to leave the building.
I'm not leaving the building because I'm doing shareholder business.
Here, our business is not complete.
Hadn't even started.
We have not seen any official of the company.
That's right. You're not an official of the company.
You're looking at it.
You're not an official.
The official, I am authorized.
Lavalio says that he's the official. Yeah, who authorized you?
You do all the business for the company.
Well, who did?
All the business for table making.
I want to see it in writing.
What does Mr. Dolan do? What
Yeah.
does second Mr. Dolan do?
That's where you get the authority.
What does Mr. Afterita do?
I'm waiting until I see the shareholders list. And I'm waiting till 5 o'clock because the law says that it has to be available during business hours, and business hours are over at 5.
Well, we can't reach that. If it not been made available to you, then you can't, I can be made available all the way down. But you did, you choose to do that, and that's okay. You have that choice, I guess.
Okay, I will go call the police and ask them to arrest you and Ryan
Do whatever you'd like to do.
and arrest Charles Dolan. No, I'm not leaving the building. I have business to do.
Request to leave the building.
I'm here to do shareholder business. I'm here on company business.
I shall see you for approximately 15 minutes, so I shall let you leave. Thank you.
I didn't hear what you said.
Have a good day.
I didn't hear what you said. Did you hear what he said?
He said 15 minutes.
Watch, you see? See him shaking? Sitting right in front of you. He was shaking. Okay, the time is 4:32 p.m. This is interesting. Yes. And is there Friday nights at 10?
not sure what kind of bugs I'm always flipping around.
Yeah?
But yeah, I love watching it.
You love my show?
I love your show.
Oh, thank you, Christy. Thanks. Why do you like it?
I like it when somebody voices their opinions.
Yes, that's right.
Lets everybody know. And
Well, yes, Christy. Because your rights are violated every chance they get them. They will violate your rights.
somebody has to voice them, otherwise
That's right.
people won't know.
Oh, Christy, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
In Huntington.
Yep. Bye.
Bye, thank you. That was Christy in Huntington, and she says, do you have a show on TV? And I said, yes. I love that show. People her age quite often say that. Time is 4:34. What?
If we stay, they'll just call the police.
What?
You're listening.
Well, we will... See, did you look at Ryan?
Yeah.
And I did not. What was he doing?
Just standing there. I don't know. It's insane.
Scared. Ryan is scared. He made such a fool of himself on the first day of fall.
Not here, and I wouldn't.
Paul Ryan and LaValia just came out of the office where we saw the shareholders list once and are walking away from us down the airplane factory, down the runway. Time is 4:35. Well, then call him out then. I want to make a request to call Tom Gardner.
Jackie, Tom, let's call that Glendora would like to
Tom Gardner.
Tom Dolan. Yes. Okay.
You in? You know if he's in? They won't even let you call up and say that Glendora wants to talk to Tom Gardner? Boy, oh boy, oh boy. If this isn't Gestapo. This is so un-American. To violate the New York law is un-American, and then to do that. Franklin, to call Paul Ryan and tell Paul Ryan that Glendora wants to call Thomas Gardner. Talk to her on the phone. Right. 4:40 p. Who said no? Well, Helen Johnson talked to Jackie, that's all I know. Helen Johnson called up and talked to Jackie and said, will you tell Paul Ryan that Glendora wants to speak to Tom Gardner? I don't know, Franklin, who Jackie is. LaValia and Ryan just came back from the direction I told you they went in, and then went into that office where we saw the shareholders list once. I'm going to go. Okay? I'm going to go call the police, and I'm going to pick it. You want to go with me? Okay. There's 4:41. You can't even...
Thank you.
We'll see you, Helen. Keep the courage flaming. Bye, Marie. Same. We're going to go call the police and tell them to arrest James Dolan, Charles Dolan, Paul Ryan, and Tony LaValia for violating a New York state law.
Bye-bye.
When you want to go? This one? Prison. It's 4:42 p.m. It's interesting that Lavaya and Ryan didn't come back.
We waited the 15 minutes, didn't we? Did he say he'd come back?
I don't know. I didn't pay any attention. I don't know what he's talking about, waiting 15 minutes. Isn't that grass pretty over there?
Yeah.
About 10 minutes to 5, I took Rusty for a walk. And now I have on my ticketing sign. In the front, Dolan's sheet, and in the back, fire informer. And I'm standing outside of Cablevision with my information. And it's about 10 minutes to 5, and I would think a lot of people would be coming out and going home. Boy, is it cold out here. It is cold. Oh, that was a good picket. 5 o'clock. Lots of business. And, must have been 150 cars. Saw the message. One car pulled up and says, "What's this all about?" I said, "I'm a shareholder, and I have a New York State right to see the shareholders list, and they won't show it to me." And she said, "Oh, yeah, why not? What are they hiding?" And so she says, "Oh, I want to get your name and number." So I gave it to her, and I had to go on Cablevision property to do it. And she,
Very good.
her name was Joyce. And so I said, call me, I urged her to call me. And she says, "I'm on the Beth page, town something or other." I said, "Oh, that's good, that's what we need." So now, I took Rusty for a walk, and I asked the man whose car broke down if we could help him. He says, no problem. Only problem is it doesn't run. Now I'm going to go call the police. I'm going to go to a payphone and call the police. Hi, I didn't get your number, operator. My name is Glendora, and I'm summoning the police to arrest Charles Dolan, James Dolan, Paul Ryan, and Tony Lavalle for violating a New York state law. I'm a shareholder of Cablevision, and the New York state law says that a shareholder has the right to see the shareholders list if the shareholder makes a demand. And I made my demand in writing, and I've been refused 60 times to see it. Their address is 1111 Stewart Avenue, Bethpage. Well, what are the police for? A citizen summons a citizen. Their address is 1111 Stewart Avenue, Bethpage, New York. It's the old Grumman plant, Cablevision. Yes, Stewart Avenue. For the what? Okay, the 8th precinct. Okay, thanks. Where's that located? In Bethpage. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. She's going to turn me over to the 8th precinct, where they are located. 8th precinct, I didn't get your name. Officer Glenn? Galenska. Hi, my name is Glendora. Thank you, and I'm summoning the police to arrest James Dolan, Charles Dolan, Tony LaValle and Paul Ryan for violating a New York state law. Well, I'm a shareholder of Cablevision, and by New York state law, I have a right to see the shareholders list if I make a written demand. I have made my demand, and they refuse to show me the list about 60 times. 60 times. The shareholders list? And that's New York State Business Corporation Law, Section 1315A. I made my written request to Charles Dolan, James Dolan, Robert Lemley, and Cablevision Systems Corporation. And I've been there to see the shareholders list, and I've been refused. Today I was refused again. Well, you say it's not a police matter? It's not police matter when they break a New York state law? Sorry, so you're not going to arrest them? Okay. All right. I will put that on my television show. Goodbye. Bunch of crooks. Take care. Okay. It's 5:30 p.m. Thank you.
I fasted until 5:30 p.m. I was so busy at 4 p.m.
Officer Galinsky in Bethpage precinct copped out. We're not going to arrest them. It's not a police matter. So it's let's go. It's 5:32. notation. The most interesting thing I thought was LaValia was actually shaking. LaValia had no answers to Franklin's questions. Franklin's saying funny, Ryan.
As far as we know,
So far as we know,
Ryan is some sort of a...
the first day of fall, I said to him, what is your position? He says, I'm a manager of security.
Manager of what?
Security.
Manager of security.
That makes it strange, Franklin says,
Stands by
that he just stands by while Tony
talking.
does the talking. Poor Helen Johnson and Marie DiGregorio are at their wits' end, just the way Tony LaValia is. That's a miserable thing to do that the Dolans do to their employees. It's a miserable way to treat their employees. And I'm thinking of LaValia and Ryan and DiGregorio and Johnson. That's a miserable way to treat them. Give them the dirty work to do, to cover up their dirty work, right?
Also Jackie and Dale.
It's 5:39, and we are heading toward the northern state, going west to Neck Bridge to Westchester. Make a memo here. 2 names to remember, Chrissy and Joyce. It's 6:30. We're in Queens. The Dolans have gone so Gestapo and made Ryan and LaValia so Gestapo that Helen Johnson and Marie DiGregorio, the receptionist, are scared stiff of them. Franklin, what happened when you went in? You went in first while I parked the car. Franklin said hello. And signed. And that was all. Franklin made some remark about how cold it is. You mean the reception? It would be so. It would be 40 degrees below zero. Boy, folks, do these people look bad or don't they? I would say we won another round. Ryan and LaValia are so mean to those women. Helen and Marie, they're so mean to them. The Dolans are just mean people. Again, I should have videotaped all this for you, giving you pictures. But the camcorder has that malaise. When you start out a tape, it loses sync. And I couldn't get it to videotape in sync before I got to the airplane factory. Cablevision. Good for you not to see all those pictures. Right. Oh, really? Yes, and the minister has asked me to MC the joke contest. He's going to have a joke contest.
This is Amy Van Horn.
That's perfect for you. Yeah. And he's telling me no ethnic jokes, and of course I don't like those anyway. Oh, yeah. And I don't like off-color jokes. And so I said, okay, then we'll do open season on ministers. I can't imagine he'd like that very much. Oh, yeah, you thought that would be interesting. Oh, yeah, I expect that. Oh, that's great. Franklin's brother is Vincent. He's 90 years old in Houston, and Vincent has a son, Donald. And Donald has a son, Jeff. Right. And Jeff is a Methodist minister. Really? Yeah. That's wonderful. It is. Where is he? In Houston. Houston. Well, wait, but Jeff is in Fort Worth. Oh, okay. Jeff is in Fort Worth. Texas is beautiful. Oh. And they sent back an audio cassette of one of Jeff's sermons. Oh, wow. So I'm going to listen to it, and then I'll do what you do. I'll schedule it if it's right. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. And then more news, last Sunday was St. Francis of Assisi Sunday. Do you know that?
Yes, I know exactly who that is.
You do?
Yep.
And so the Methodist Church, our Methodist Church, doesn't do anything for the animals, but Patty, you know where Rocky got the home with Patty?
Yes.
Across from the church?
Yep.
Well, she goes to the Episcopalian Church,
Okay.
just down the street away.
Right.
And so they will always have the blessing of the animals.
Oh, how nice.
And so we took Rocky and we took Rusty, and they both got blessed.
Oh, that's great.
You know, I went down and rescued Rusty from the garage.
Right.
Concrete and grease and dirt.
How long ago was that?
2 Mondays ago.
Really?
Yeah. And waiting for more divine intervention the way it was with Rocky.
Yep.
I never could found Patty. I never could have found Patty. But it was divine intervention.
I believe that too.
Mm-hmm. And so now I'm waiting for Rusty. Rusty is such a good dog, and in church he was so good, and of course he went he was so scared of all the other dogs.
Oh, of course, I can imagine.
Yeah, and it was really funny. The minister, or rather the priest, was behind the altar, and he had one dog on a leash doing the sermon.
Oh, so cute.
And then he had another one of his dogs lying on the steps below the altar, and that's, she's quite old. She's 16.
Oh, wow.
So she didn't do anything but sit.
I'm sure, yeah.
And then the third dog was being held by a friend of the minister's in the front pew. And that was the minister's dog. The priest, I should say, has 3 dogs.
Right.
And so then his third dog was, it's his own dog. But they all got through the service. You know, last year they had it outside, and that makes much more sense.
Yes, definitely.
I didn't think Sunday was that cold, but they put it inside. I think they should have had it outside.
Yeah, especially, well, such dogs, I would think so.
And Rusty was so good. He was scared, and so, but when I went into the pew with him, I put him right under my legs and petted him, and he felt fine.
Oh, that's good.
He was so good when the minister came down and gave him a dog biscuit and blessed him.
Oh, they gave him biscuits?
Yeah.
That's adorable.
And you know what's funny is the minister's nickname is Rusty.
Oh, is it real?
Yeah, so I said, Rusty, meet Rusty.
Ah, so cute.
Yeah, it was cute. It was really cute.
Well, good luck next weekend.
Next weekend, what's next
We'll
weekend?
be the MC.
Oh, being the MC. Yeah.
That'll be great.
There's something else I was going to tell you. What was it?
I don't know.
Some other event happened. Wait just a second.
I did see that on one of your shows. You were driving down the road.
Yeah, but now he can't get comfortable in the back seat.
No?
No. So now he rides in the passenger seat.
Ah, that's adorable.
And he sits up and he looks out the windshield.
Oh, good. Gives him something to look at.
Yes, and I'm sitting in back. I have to ride in the back seat. And I'm sitting in back with the camera, and it's so funny. I got a picture of Rusty going down the highway and with his ears.
No way.
And looking straight ahead, you know, and it's so funny. You'll see that this week. I think that's the first week I got that. That is so funny.
Oh, good. I can't wait to see it.
There was something else that went through my mind. Let me think just a second.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to it.
All right. So keep an eye open. It's got to be a very good person to take Rusty, as good as Patty, because I really love him.
Oh, yeah.
He's so nice. So look around. He'd be an ideal companion for an elderly person.
Oh, okay.
Because he's very, very protective.
Really?
Yes. If you're walking him or if you're holding on to him, oh, you hadn't better come near the person.
Oh, wow.
And oh boy, you hadn't better come near the car. But other than that, is protecting you. He's just so sweet and docile, and he's so nice.
Wonderful. Well, I'll definitely keep an eye out.
Yeah, keep an eye, but it's got to be somebody very, very nice.
Right.
Like Patty, you know.
Sure.
And I told you that Rocky has an apartment. He doesn't, you know, he has the heated garage.
Oh, yeah.
And then he has he has a whole recreation room, and it's huge. It goes the length of the house. And he has the laundry room, and he comes and goes as he wishes.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's good to talk to you, Amy.
Yeah, as always.
And I'll send these along.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, and you're going to screen the other ones Yeah, I don't look at them today. I'll definitely look at them tomorrow. Oh, that's good. Okay. All right. And thank you. You're welcome. Bye, Glendora. Bye-bye, Amy.
Now this next audio tape is of the oral argument September 7th before the Second Circuit, Calabrese and Katzman, about Bruiser Ken and about the lying and traitorship to America of Nina Gershon, Joan Azrak, Robert Levy, Marilyn DeGoe, Aileen Ross, Eugene Nickerson, Patrick Quinn, Larry Parker, lying U.S. Marshals. And of course it's a whole Bruiser Ken affair. Silly Sullivan, the McHales, the 66 conspirators. Now folks, I just got back from taking Rusty for a walk on this beautiful day. And I let him go free with his leash, but he was bad. He went way ahead of me. And I had to run after him. And I was counting on his making stops to catch up with him. It was bad. So I'll have to hold on to him from now on. And I had to clean up his mess. Yes, another one. And now I'm ready to play for you. First of all, thank God for this beautiful, perfect weather day. And now I'm going to play for you the oral argument, September 7th, Second Circuit. Calabrese is in the center, and then Katzman, and then Meskill recruits. And let me tell you, the Second Circuit has terrible audio tapes. Even the district court does better.
Versus Glendora. Thank you. Thank you. United States versus Carney. John Wins versus United States. Thank you. The next case, in re Michael Gibbs, I am recused, and so we will hear that case as the last case on the calendar. I will remove myself at that point, and I don't want to hear anything about it, even whoever you're here. Thank you. And Southeast Queens and the Committee for Better Transit versus FAA and Port Authority.
Petitioner Southeast Queens is their neighbors here.
Yeah, one of them is on submission. See, but pay fees. Fine, and we will hear that one as the fifth case of the calendar. Now, the third judge on this panel is recused in the first two cases, and so we will hear it as is provided for under law as a two-judge panel. And we'll hear United States versus Franklinville.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Excuse me, is it Bell or Buell? Buell. Buell. Thank you very much.
I must say, he's really familiar with the case, right, Franklin? Is it Bell or is it Buell?
issue I'd like to discuss is the prosecutorial misconduct information at the trial before Magistrate Judge Azra. In rebuttal summation, the prosecutor got up and told the jury, falsely and improperly, that defense counsel had told the jury to disregard Mr. Buell's testimony. The defense counsel did not rely in any way on Mr. Buell's sworn testimony, and that if defense counsel didn't rely on her own client's credibility, the jury should not either. The prosecutor also told the jury that the defendant's testimony was ordinarily a very important part of the case, and the defense counsel's treatment of it was remarkable. This portrayal of defense counsel's remarks was false and thoroughly improper. In fact, defense counsel had specifically urged the jury to find Mr. Buell more credible than the government witnesses. She argued that the government witnesses were all federal employees and had a motive to back up the complainant, Mildler. Defense counsel also argued that Mr. Buell's version should be believed because he could have simply blamed everything on his wife, and instead he stood up to the government witnesses and told a story that was...
Let's assume that the prosecutor's comments were improper. Do they rise to the level of a violation of a fair trial, as seems to be required, perhaps improperly, but by cases to which we are bound?
Well, Your Honor, in this case, we submit that they do rise to the level of denial of a fair trial. Well, they weren't just improper, but they were just flat out false. They struck at the heart of the defense. Mr. Buell's testimony was the defense at trial, and there was no other defense except his version, as the prosecutor called it. Also, the prosecutor, it wasn't just an attack on the defendant's testimony. It was a much more insidious kind of attack. The prosecutor used a kind of personal vouching. He said to the jury, I know what's going on here. I'm in the know. I try these cases. And I'm telling you, this is usually the highlight of the defense summation, is the defendant's story. And here, what I'm telling you is I can see from the way defense counsel is talking that she doesn't believe her own client. So it was a really underhanded attack on the defense credibility. In other words, not an attack on what the defendant actually said, but a personal opinion as to what defense counsel thought of her own client. Finally, it was objected to. The defense counsel objected to this, and the magistrate judge overruled the objection. Thereby telegraphing to the jury that this was proper and that this was probably true, which just completely undermined and devastated the whole defense. So under these circumstances, it really is not a harmless instance of impropriety, but...
Did the district court, in affirming the magistrate when it said that this was wrong, but it didn't rise to those levels, consider at all whether we should act not on due process, not on fair trial, but on the question of whether we should do something under our supervisory authority for the federal courts?
I don't believe the district judge mentioned supervisory.
I'm sorry?
I don't believe the district judge, in her opinion, mentioned supervisory authority in her opinion. I think it was a fair...
That might be a separate ground.
It would be. It would be a separate ground for reversing and ordering a new trial. Now, I'd like to, if Your Honor doesn't have any further questions about the improper summation, I'd like to turn to the sentencing issue in this case. The sentencing judge in this case ruled that she was granting a downward departure, and then she imposed a sentence within the guideline range, and not even at the bottom of the guideline range. Now, clearly a mistake was made. The judge was under some misimpression of what the guideline range was. And under these circumstances, this court remands for resentencing. This court did so in McCall and Thorpe, both cases in which the judge's comments and rulings indicated that the judge had a wrong notion of what the guideline range must have been, and thought that either a departure was required to impose the sentence imposed, or that...
But we haven't reversed in cases in which there was a misstatement by a court, even if it was a quite serious misstatement, if it's pretty clear that the court did what it wanted to do.
Well, Your Honor, I don't see how it would be clear that the court did what it wanted to do in this
Yes, that's the
case.
question.
Okay, because what Judge Gershon, in her opinion, wrote that she believed that the magistrate judge used the words downward departure, but really meant...
But Judge Gershon went primarily on the fact that the district court could have gone further down within the range and didn't, and that suggested that she
fact that she ruled that she was granting a more defective, that that's just indicative of her mistake as to what the guidelines were. That when she made her ruling, she had a different guideline range in her mind than what was the actual applicable guideline range.
Thank you. Your red light is on.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
From the other side.
May it please the court, my name is Edgardo Ramos. I'm an assistant U.S. attorney and I represent the government on this appeal. Mr. Buell is seeking to have his conviction overturned.
Were you the government lawyer on trial?
I was.
You were?
Yes, Judge. Seeking to have his conviction overturned on the basis of one statement made during the government's rebuttal summation, which the government acknowledges as error, but which we submit constitutes an insufficient basis to upset a conviction that was otherwise based on overwhelming evidence. The Supreme Court has said that a prosecutor may argue with earnestness and vigor. Thus, a review of a conviction based on comments made by the prosecutor during summation is limited. Reversal is warranted only where the statements viewed against the entire argument before the jury deprive the defendant of a fair trial.
That's in, what case are you citing from?
Jermosin, Your Honor.
Is that a case of a federal prosecutor's behavior or a state prosecutor's behavior?
I don't know. I don't recall.
It's an important distinction because if we're talking about a state prosecutor, then our only power is one of due process and fair trial. If we're talking about a federal prosecutor like you, then we have a right under our supervisory authority to reverse if we think that your behavior should be criticized or apart from your behavior so that other prosecutors in the federal courts will not do the same.
I understand. And I would answer that in the following manner. First of all, the defendants did not raise this particular argument below, nor did Judge Burson.
But if it's supervisory authority, that's something that we have a right to raise at any time. Precisely because it is supervisory authority.
That's correct. And I would also state that Judge Gershon did not sua sponte address that issue below. And in addressing this issue, I think it is helpful to consider one of the factors that the courts look at in determining whether or not the defendant has received a fair trial, and that is the severity of the misconduct, one of the three issues that the courts discourse.
Before we move to that, let me suggest one thing, that I'm in doubt about it. I frankly should have thought about it and asked for further briefing on it. Your brief cites and relies heavily on the Taftlet case, which I wrote, and where the statements by the prosecutor, I must say, were much worse than the ones which were in this case. And nevertheless, the trial was upheld. But that case was a case involving a state trial, and therefore seemed to me that the issue was really very different. So that I would like you both to submit letter briefs on the question of supervisory authority, and to do it, say, within a week, because it's not a big deal, but I'd like to have some discussion of that issue, because I'm not altogether sure that we've made that the distinction has been made in terms of our precedents. Yes, please.
Concerning the severity of the misconduct, first of all, I think that the counsel for Mr. Buell mischaracterizes the government's argument as completely false. In fact, Judge Gershon noted that the government's argument in large part, although she did criticize and rule that it was improper for the government to comment on the abandonment by counsel of Mr. Buell's version of facts, the judge did indicate and did say that the government properly commented on the abandonment by Mr. Buell of his version of facts, while the trial counsel stated that Mr. Buell should be believed. She never argued the version of fact that Mr. Buell provided at trial. She never argued that the court security officer violently and in an unprovoked manner attacked Mrs. Buell, grabbing her by the arm and twisting it upward. She never argued that Mr. Buell, in attempting to defend his wife, merely stretched open his arms and stepped in between his wife and the court security officer, and that thereafter the court security officer, who by all accounts is a much younger and much larger man, brought his arm back full force and struck Mr. Buell in the jaw. I think that we argued forcefully to the jury that had that happened, Mr. Buell would not have been able to stand up as he did and walk out of the courthouse on his own power several minutes later. In fact, Mr. Buell at the time was not only elderly but a very frail and thin man. So when you consider the severity of the misconduct, I think that that's what we submitted, that we must focus on the evidence that was presented before the jury and the arguments that were
Your red light is on.
Can I ask one quick question? On the sentencing issue, you say that the sentencing issue is moot because Mr. Buell is no longer on probation.
That's correct.
If we're talking though about whether the fine, for example, could be reduced, does that mean that the sentencing issue is completely moot?
I guess at that point it would require reimbursement to Mr. Buell, the fine which he paid, because I believe that he did pay the fine.
But that is in no sense moot.
Correct. So that part of it would not be moved. That's correct.
Thank you. You retain 1 minute, Ms. Cassidy.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, on the sentencing issue that you just raised, what we're seeking relief on at this point is the fine because the probation was completely discharged. I just would like to respond to the government's contention that it was a somewhat or partly accurate characterization of defense counsel's summation, the remarks that were made. I refer, Your Honor, to page 830 of the appendix, in which defense counsel, in her summation, referred to the government witnesses and said, they have good reason to support each other and downplay each other's actions. They all work together and they are all defendants that appear in Mrs. Buell's civil lawsuit. That in itself was a reason for giving Mr. Buell greater credibility than the government witnesses that you heard. But there is a much more important reason. And then she goes on to say that he could have given a story that just blamed everything on his wife, but that he stood up to the government witnesses. He could have scored a few points, but he didn't. He chose instead to give the version that he gave. She is relying on his testimony. She's explicitly relying on his testimony. She doesn't argue the details. But that's not what the prosecutor said. The prosecutor didn't say, well, she didn't argue the specifics. He said, Ms. Murray stood up in her summation and essentially told you, disregard what he said. Ms. Murray did not rely in any way whatsoever on the sworn testimony provided by her client. What does it tell you when a defense lawyer doesn't rely on the credibility of her client? It tells me that you shouldn't rely on it either, which is false. Sorry, I went over.
It's okay.
Thank you.
We'll reserve decision. We'll expect a brief from each of you within a week on the question of supervisory authority and distinguishing that. And thank you both for a well-argued case.
Thank you.
And we'll hear United States of America versus Glendora, if you will.
Good morning, Judge Dolan.
Good morning.
Good morning, Judge Catherine.
Good morning.
Good morning, Judge Mescal. My name is Glendora, and standing before you just now is a man who made up a story, who used taxpayer funds to orchestrate 4,007 lies, who betrayed the United States of America, and who used the government's tools to protect himself and his friends instead of to protect the public. Edgardo Ramos calls himself the government, he is the anti-government. So you are used to that. This is not the first time an assistant U.S. attorney has lied, stolen, and cheated. Edgardo Ramos has lied under the flag of the United States of America. Edgardo Ramos has lied before God. He has no personal knowledge of what happened February 18, 1997, 9:20 a.m. to 9:35 a.m. He was not there. Everything he tells you is removed once, twice, thrice from the scene. He cheated on his discovery. Glendora had a federal rule of procedure right to discovery. He cheated on that, and Azraq cheated with him. Why are United States judges afraid of United States attorneys? U.S. attorneys can ruin judges' careers. Now this judge, only a magistrate, was scared stiff of this U.S. attorney. She bowed to his every whim. She stooped to his level. She obsequiously acquiesced to his every violation of Americans' rights. All judges do this at conferences, at sidebars, and at motions. But this one, Joan M. Azraq, was up for reappointment. Her 8 years were over in 3 months, so she capitulated to Ramos's every whim, every lie, and every injustice. Like Edgardo Ramos, Joan M. Azraq sold her soul before my eyes. They sold her soul for a madman, Bruiser Ken, a 240-pound hulk, 50 years old, who socked a frail male, 78 years old, 140 pounds in the jaw, and sprawled him on the floor. Frail male, will you stand up, please? Azraq, Ramos, Robert Levy, Aileen Ross, Marilyn D. Gold, and Eugene H. Nicholson sold their souls for punk Kenneth H. Mildorn, who was canned 1.5 years later, and Pinkerton lost the contract to ACOL, and I will take full credit for that. Glendora and Franklin have told you the truth. Back to ACOL, and I will take full credit for that. Glendora and Franklin have told you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God, and we are proud of it. Edgardo Ramos, those mentioned Super, and the rest of the 54 conspirators never had. The raison d'etre of these courts is to ascertain the truth. The evil Eastern District of New York failed atrociously. It is taxpayer waste and abuse of authority. Glendora never committed a crime in her life. She complains about and exposes crooked lawyers and corrupt judges. That is not a crime, that is patriotism. The real criminal is Edgardo Ramos, Bruiser Ken, and the entire civil RICO of 54 conspirators in the evil Eastern District of New York, 42 U.S. Code 1983 and 1984-5, and also Criminal Code 18 U.S. Code 1963 and 1001. The crimes against Glendora are pellucidly delineated in her hundreds of pages to you, which you, not clerks, have a USA duty to read and introsect. First Amendment retaliation, robbery of due process, robbery of Fourth Amendment right to an oath sworn to under penalty of perjury, robbery of Fourth Amendment right to probable cause, speedy trial, deferred prosecution, a summons instead of a false arrest, a complaint of truth instead of a complaint of lies, ambush, discovery, waste to occur in every American's taxpayer money, personal frolic, no official duty, a federal officer, not at all, he's a cop for rent, no outside witnesses, no physical evidence, no audio tapes, no videotapes, no photographs, robbery of my witnesses, intimidation of jurors, forcing Glendora to take a legal advisor when she did not want one, and who, as you can see, is not brave enough to be here today to argue. Stuart Grossman. Abuse abuse of the CJA, a magistrate instead of an Article 3 judge, 4 days in a courtroom, 3 years exactly to this day, this happened in the courtroom. Abuse of Glendora's constitutional right to be pro se, 6 U.S. judges who sold their souls instead of protecting America. Cassidy has done her work well as it can be done within these constraints. She asked for a retrial and a proper guideline sentencing. Glendora asked for total and consummate reversal and vacatur and full restitution of $23 million, punitive and compensatory damages, the cost of this action, and immediate discharge of Ramos and his gang of gangsters.
Thank you. Time's up. And we will hear from the other side. You have retained a minute's rebuttal.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honors, the government has, I believe, responded to those arguments that we were able to discern from Mrs. Buell's pro se submissions. And unless there are any questions concerning the government's arguments, we would rely on our written submissions.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Buell, you have a minute if you wish it.
No, you can have the minute. I wish to thank you for being heard. It's the great American ideal, and I am very proud to be here, and I thank you for what you have given us.
Thank you. We'll reserve decision, and we will adjourn for just 30 seconds until Judge Mestel is able to join us. Thank you.
Well, what do you think of that?
It sounds as if they made the wrong decision.
Sounds as if they made the wrong decision.
Yes.
Whom are they looking out for? The United States of America?
No.
Are they looking out for you?
No. Not at all.
Yeah. They're looking out for themselves.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We will reserve on that, or we've already said what we thought of it. In fact, I think it was, how many pages? No Calabrese. Now, Franklin has something to talk to you about.
I have an older brother, Vincent, who has a son, Donald, who has a son, Jeffrey. And Jeffrey, commonly known as Jeff, is a youth minister in a Methodist church in Fort Worth, Texas. And what you are about to hear is a part of a sermon by Jeff recently given, and we're very proud of him.
I almost came up here when he said people this tall. I thought he was talking about me, so I thought better of it. Like Ken said, I'm Jeff Buell, and I'm the middle school pastor here at McKinney, and I've been here for I'm starting my 8th year. I actually started in May. And I work mostly over at the S&D, so some of you know me, but many of you don't. But it's my privilege to be here and to give you a message that God has put on my heart this morning. You know, as I began to think and pray about what to preach on this morning, one thing kept coming to my mind. And before I tell you what it is, I want to ask you one question. And this is a real question I'd like for some of you to answer. I'm used to working with middle school students, so I don't talk the whole time with them. I allow them to talk because they do it anyway. So I know you're better than that. You wouldn't talk through me the whole hour, but just to give you a chance to speak up, this is the one question I have for you. What is one thing that either you or people that you know don't like church or Christians? What? They're hypocrites, okay? They say one thing, do another. What else? They think we don't have a good time, is that what you said? Okay, think it's boring. Okay? All it is a list of rules, what you can do, what you can't do. What else? too time consuming. I want to sleep in on Sunday mornings. If I go out on Saturday nights, I'm too tired to get up. What else? Too convicting. If I really took that stuff seriously, my life may have to change. You see, all those things are reasons that people don't like church or don't like Christians. And the thing that I get the most when I ask people that same question is that the church is full of hypocrites, and that was the first thing that Andy up here said. And unfortunately, when people say that, a lot of times I have to agree with them. Our churches are full of people who pay lip service to God but don't really follow him with their hearts. George Barna, many of you have heard of him. He's done a lot of research on our culture and just different trends that are happening in our culture. And he has this to say with regards to Christians in our society. He says, the level of importance assigned by people to the religious faith is very high. 2/3 say that their faith is very important to them. More than 4 out of 5 pray during the week. Bible reading is on the increase. Half of all adults claim to have a devotional or a quiet time at least once during a typical week. And the fact that church attendance has remained stable while participation in virtually every other form of traditional activity, including watching television, exercising, reading for pleasure, and spending time with the family, have all declined in recent years. Spirituality, however, remains important to people. But, he says, we're still in a shake-up period where people are trying to discover how to fit it into their increasingly hectic schedules. They want God to make a difference in their life. They're just not sure when and how often they will pencil him into their schedule. You see, there's lots of folks that are just penciling God into their schedule. As a matter of fact, he discovered some other stats. Barna says that 82% of adults in America claim to be Christians. He said 62% claim to be committed Christians, whatever that means to them. But he also discovered that the divorce rate among Christians is higher than that of the general population. While 25% of all adults have experienced at least one divorce, 27% of born-again Christians have experienced at least one divorce. And you may say, why is that happening? Why is that possible? Shouldn't we be different from the rest of the society? And we should. George Gobb is another person who's done a lot of research, and he has this to say with regards to the church. He says that there's very little difference in ethical behavior between the churched and the unchurched. There's as much pilferage and dishonesty among the churched as there is among the unchurched. And I'm afraid that applies pretty much across the board. Religion, he says, per se, is not really life-changing. People may cite it as important, for instance, in overcoming depression, but it doesn't have primacy in determining their behavior. I'd have to agree with Gallup and Barna. Religion really isn't life-changing. It really doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, I think religion is kind of pointless. You're saying, but wait, Jeff, you're a pastor. You can't think religion is pointless. That's what you do all the time. Well, that doesn't matter. That's what I do all the time. Religion is pointless. You see, religion is just a system set up by man where we can jump through certain hoops to make ourselves feel like we're gaining favor with God. If you go to church regularly, if you read your Bible regularly, if you pray, if you go to a Bible study group, if you give in the offering plate, if you get baptized, if you repeat some prayer that somebody said up at the front, then you're a good Christian. That's a sham. That has nothing to do with being a Christian. Well, it has something to do, but that is not the point of being a Christian. The point of being a Christian is having a relationship with God. And when we lose sight of the relationship and focus on the religion, it's pointless. It doesn't matter. Jesus, I think, hated religion as well. You're saying, well, I don't know about that. If you have your Bibles, why don't you open to Matthew 23. And what is quite possibly Jesus' last public message before his crucifixion, he takes that opportunity to address the issue of the religious leaders of his time and the systems that they had set in place. They were actually drawing people away from God instead of drawing them closer to him. Starting in verse 1 of Matthew 23, this is what he says. See if you can pick out and figure out why Jesus is so upset with the religious leaders of his day. Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must obey them and do everything they tell you. But do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy loads and put them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Everything they do is done for men to see. They make their phylacteries wide and the tassels on their garments long. They love the place of honor at banquets and the most important seats in the synagogues. They love to be greeted in the marketplaces and to have men call them rabbi. You see, even in Jesus' day, there were hypocrites in the church. It's not a new thing. And it's not that the religious leaders were teaching the wrong things. I want you to notice he says, do as they say. They were saying many of the right things. They just weren't following their own instructions. They weren't listening to what they were saying. They were going out and doing their own thing. They were making following God a burdensome chore rather than a blessing. They were putting on a show. They weren't really focused on God. They were focused on themselves and what benefits that they could derive from the people that they were leading. And it upset Jesus. You see, they like to be good. They like to be honored with titles and positions, and they were seeking fame. You know, as a pastor and a religious leader today, when I read a passage like that, I have to stop and ask myself some really tough questions. Because, you know, I don't ever want to be in a position where Jesus could say the same things about me that he said about the Pharisees. But, you know, if I'm really honest with myself, I think sometimes he could. You see, I don't really struggle with wanting to be called certain titles. Jeff is fine with me. I don't care if you call me Reverend or anything else. As a matter of fact, Ken, I'd really like for you to call him Doctor, even though he is. I'm not real concerned with the titles. I'm not concerned with fame. But I'll admit, a lot of times, I worry about what other people think of me. And I start going through motions because I want people to think that I'm a good Christian. And I want them to think that I have it all together. And in the process, I lose sight of God. And I start focusing on all these things that I have to do, and I forget who I'm doing them for. And it becomes just going through religious motions. It's just a religious exercise to me that doesn't have much joy. But you know, religious leaders aren't the only ones who struggle with going through religious motions. Is it fading out? Brushing. How about moving this up? Would that be better? And then it won't brush in my deal? I don't know. Somebody raise your hand if that really bothers you. Is that better? Yeah? Somebody in the back saying good. Okay, thank you. You know, religious leaders aren't the only ones. I see it in our culture, and I see it even here in this church, people just going through the motions. You know, our culture is popular to go to church on Sunday, and maybe go out to lunch with friends, and then go on about our business for the rest of the week without giving a second thought to God. Now, many of you I know are saying, but I don't do that. I read my Bible every day, and I pray, and maybe that's true. But my question is, why are you doing that? Are you doing it to really get to know God better, or just so that you can feel justified in your actions? You see, I hate it when I catch myself just going through the motions, and unfortunately I catch myself doing it more often than I'd like. And I hate it when I see others just wasting their time playing games with God, but not really getting to know him any better. And Jesus hates it as well. You see, religion is all about how we can earn favor with God by doing certain things, but Jesus' life and death were all about the fact that we can't do anything to earn his favor. If we could, God would have never sent his son to die in our place. The reason he did was because we couldn't earn his favor. We're sinful. We needed a Savior. We needed a relationship with his Son. It's a gift that is offered to us. We simply receive it. That is why Jesus takes his last opportunity in the public to denounce the religious leaders of his time. My original thought was to go through all of Matthew 23. He delivers a series of woes or just things about the religious leaders that they're doing wrong. And I was going to look at each of those and look at our society today and see how we could compare those. But I don't think that's the message that God wants me to deliver to you this morning. Because I think if we did that, we would lose in the process. We would get so caught in all the details of what Jesus said that we would miss the main point, just like the Pharisees did. So if you'll allow me, instead of going over the rest of Matthew 23, turn over to Matthew 15. There's another place in the same gospel earlier in Jesus' ministry where he had addressed the religious leaders to their face and kind of summed up all these things that he's saying in Matthew 23. It's not as detailed, but the heart of his message is the same. In Matthew 15, he says this, and he's quoting Isaiah. He's talking to the Pharisees, the religious leaders, and he says in verse 7, "You hypocrites, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you." And what did Isaiah say that he was right about? He says, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teaching are but rules taught by men. You see, Jesus is basically saying, listen, you guys, you say all these good things about me, but you don't really even know me. Your hearts aren't with me. And you see, that happened in the Old Testament when Isaiah was there. It happened in the New Testament when Jesus was right there in their midst, and it's happening today. It's happening right now. We honor God with our lips, and then we walk away and deny him with our lifestyles. You see, Jesus was concerned with the inner man, and they were concerned with the externals. Jesus measured spirituality in terms of character, while they measured it just in terms of religious exercises and activities. My question for you this morning is, what are you concerned about? Are you concerned about the externals and what people think of you? Or are you concerned with your heart? Our society is full of people claiming to be Christians. Remember, Barna said 82% of Americans say that they're Christians. What are you doing to show the world that you're different than the rest of that 82%? You've heard that actions speak louder than words, and there's no place that is more true than in living a life for Christ. It's easy to become distracted by religious activities, but we have to fight against that. God isn't concerned with how many Bible studies you attend, how many prayer meetings you go to, how much money you put in the offering plate. He's concerned with whether or not you have a personal relationship with him. Even after all the Pharisees had done, look back in chapter 23, even after all they've done to lead people away from him, he finishes with his heartfelt desire at the end of chapter 23. In verse 37, he says, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you, how often I have longed to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing." See, Jesus wanted a relationship with them, and he wants a relationship with you. But I'm afraid that most of the time, we just get caught going through the motions. And we think that God wants us to do all these things for him, and we forget that he just wants to know us. He wants a relationship with you. Many of you know that just a few weeks ago, we had a middle school outreach event called Stampede. And it was a great week of ministry. As a matter of fact, hardly a day has gone by since then that I haven't received a phone call or a note in the mail or somebody's come up to me and said just how much it meant to them. Now their life was changed by what happened that week. And you know, there were some really great things that happened. We had great music, we had a great speaker, we had great dramas, we had fun games. There were people from all over Fort Worth that filled this auditorium right here. But you know, the most exciting thing that happened wasn't those things. The most exciting thing that I saw all week was that God reached in to some kids' lives and grabbed a hold of their heart. And for the first time, they realized that they didn't just need to go through a set of rules and regulations. They needed to have a relationship with Christ. You see, many of these kids were kids that had been in this church their whole life, had grown up in our youth groups, in our children's ministry, had been taught all the right things. As a matter of fact, they knew all the right answers to all the spiritual questions. And on the outside, you look at them and say, they have it all together. But at Stampede, they realized God grabbed a hold of them, and he convinced them that what they had been doing was just going through the motions, and they didn't really have a relationship with him. And I saw these same students who had it all together seemingly on the outside, broken down and weeping because they finally realized that Jesus wanted to have a real friendship with them. I saw leaders that week that were being affected. They were convicted of sinful behavior that they were in, and they confessed to one another and repented and asked for forgiveness. They sought others to hold them accountable so that they can continue to walk in ways that would honor God. I don't know how many of you have ever been a part of something like that, where God's Spirit just sweeps over a place, but it's exciting. When we put aside all the activity and just focus on God, he can do wonderful things. You know, I've asked someone to come and share this morning with you that was at Stampede. Many of you may know him. Justin Jones, you can go ahead and start coming up here, Justin. Justin is one of our middle school volunteers and has been with us volunteering for the last few years. He's actually grown up in this church. He's helped with Camp Sunshine several years. And Justin and I have even met together on a regular basis talking about how to study God's Word more for our own and teaching him that. But you know, God is doing some exciting things in Justin's life. Okay, you'll need a microphone. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking ahead. And so I want you to give your attention to Justin because he has some great things that God's been doing that he wants to share with you. It should be on now.
There we go. Like you said, some of y'all might know me, some of you might not. I've been going to this church since I was probably in 6th or 7th grade. I grew up in a Baptist church most of my life. Deeply religious parents, deeply religious grandparents.
Well, I thought that was very good, Franklin.
Yes.
That Jesus wants a relationship with you. And God wants a relationship with you and a friendship with you. I think that's lovely. So are you proud of your nephew?
Oh, yes.
And knowing your, not your that's your grandnephew, great nephew, right? And knowing your nephew, it's amazing to me that he turned out so well. But knowing his mother, it's no surprise. Janet, right?
Right.
And she is one of the most genuinely sweet persons that I have ever encountered. Okay, now moving on. We have to tell you some jokes. What's happening on the baseball scene today, October the 11th, Wednesday?
Well, we're getting closer to the World Series. We're down to 4 teams now instead of 8. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
And who's playing this afternoon, Wednesday?
The Yankees in Seattle.
And who's playing tonight?
The Mets and the St. Louis Cardinals.
And who's going to win? The Yankees and the Seattle.
Oh, I rather think the Yankees will. They seem to be able to. They haven't certainly played as well this year as they have the past 2 years, but they always seem to be able to come through when it's essential.
And the Mets and the
Cardinals. Well, the Mets have done very well. Somehow I have a feeling about the Cardinals, though they seem to do things right, and they've been consistent all year. Although I would say that I rather think the Cardinals will win, but not easily.
Okay. I hope the St. Louis court comes through and does things right. I have some jokes for you. You never have to worry about the boss losing his temper. He can always find it when he needs it. And if you're having an argument with a boss, it's wise for you to see both sides, his side and the outside. And I don't think the judge is doing as well as you thought. The telephone in his Lincoln is a party line. And the clerk says that the judge is temperamental. I believe that the judge is temperamental, 50% temper and 50% mental. And on the judge's bench, there are 3 boxes: in, out, and oops. Now, Franklin, the athlete said that important is being invited to the Oval Office. And another athlete says, no, important is you're in the Oval Office, the telephone rings, and the president puts the caller on hold. And a third athlete says, no, important is you're in the Oval Office, the telephone rings, the president answers, and he says, hands you the receiver and says, it's for you. Did we water the plants?
Yes,
The plants are all watered?
yes,
The great big tree?
yes,
And all the plants on the front porch?
yeah.
Okay, what time is it now? It's 3 minutes after 4. I could have eaten.
Oh my
Could
goodness.
have started eating 3 minutes ago. Do you know how many days this is? 30 days plus 5.
Good record.
Thanks. Oh, thank you.
That's my brother and his great-great-grandson.
So that's Vincent,
And Brent.
and Brent is Jeff's son.
That's right.
Okay. What is this?
This is the 4 generations. Don is standing in the back. He's the father of the minister. My brother is sitting in the left of the picture.
Yeah, I think we can tell your brother from Jeff. I think we
And
can
the
tell.
Jeff who just gave the sermon is holding his son.
So it's Vincent, your nephew. Excuse me, it's Donald, your nephew, and Vincent's your brother, and Jeff, your grandnephew, and Jeff's son.
Right.
What is Jeff's son?
My grand or great nephew.
Oh. And who is that?
That's Jeff. Obviously a later picture. Let's see this.
Who is that?
This is Brent at 8 months with his mother, Charlotte. His mother, Charlotte.
That's nice, Franklin. Good for you. I had to take a picture of the vegetarian hamburger that Franklin prepared for me. Folks, it's Thursday night, and it's about 7:30 p.m. And I had to show you these 2 legal papers. They'll be served by the time I get time to report to you what has happened Wednesday night and all day Thursday. So I have to show you that these they've been done, and I'll read you the papers later. They have to be served tonight before midnight. Let's see. What happened the rest of the day Wednesday? The weather was superb. Oh, what a gift of God that was. And after the videotaping, I had fasted until 4 o'clock, you knew that. Then Franklin got me a nice supper. And the people started to tear down the old fence. And then they got very close to the sunflower. And I told them not to hurt the sunflower. That I love the sunflower and I didn't want to hurt. And they said, oh no, nothing else can be done. But we'll watch them very, very carefully. And we will protect that sunflower. That's a magnificent creation. So Franklin got me supper, and it was good. It was a vegetarian hamburger, and potato chips, and mixed nuts, and a salad. I guess that's all. And dessert. Weighed 173 pounds this morning, and then drowsiness that sets in, and got the praying done, and then took the pooch for a walk 6 times yesterday. 6 times, but he's such a good dog, and he's so happy. And so this morning, the 13 morning chores got done. The dog had his first walk at 6 o'clock, and his second walk at 8, and so forth, every 2 hours. And first legal paper, one legal paper last night, Texaco Task Force. And that has been lying on the dining room table. You remember all those legal papers? Been lying on the dining room table and unable to do because of Cablevision law breaking. And Texas and potato chips and mixed nuts and a salad. I guess that's all. And dessert. Weighed 173 pounds this morning. And then drowsiness that sets in, and got the praying done, and then took the pooch for a walk 6 times yesterday. 6 times, but he's such a good dog, and he's so happy. And so this morning, the 13 morning chores got done. The dog had his first walk at 6 o'clock, and his second walk at 8, and so forth, every 2 hours. And first legal paper, one legal paper last night, Texaco Task Force. And that has been lying on the dining room table. You remember all those legal papers? Been lying on the dining room table and unable to do because of Cablevision law breaking and Texaco law breaking and no caliber Calabrese and Texaco St. Louis and Texaco not showing the shareholders list. Legal papers all piled up. There were nine to do. But last night, practically the last hour of the day, I started reading the Texaco Task Force. And I'll have to read that to you. That is the worst sham. Roberts versus Texaco, and this was the settlement that never should have been a settlement. So I'll be reading that to you. And then bedtime at 8:30 and up at 5. And the 13 morning chores. And then Texaco was brought up to date. And so that's off of the dining room table. And that's up to date and a little bit ahead. That was first legal paper. Then second is the mess with MedCreate. I hadn't done the meditation for 4 weeks. And so that was done. But the think drawer is not done. And then came the second legal paper. And that's the one that's being served right now. Indianapolis. Dolan. Notice of appeal. I'll read that to you. And then I looked up the new words in the dictionary. That's fun. And legal paper 3 was this one that just got done. And that was George Howard said that he wanted me to amend my complaint on the New York Law Journal. And I read the complaint, and I think it's exactly the way the complaint has to be, to tell the story and what the claims are and what the relief sought is. So I made a Rule 60B motion that he rescind that order, relief from that order, and that he go ahead and read the complaint. That's his problem. He just doesn't want to sit down and read it. And that's his job. So that's got to be posted now. See if there's anything else to tell you. Franklin went up to Office Essentials. Franklin went to, you heard that, what he did. And Franklin did White Plains Post Office, and we forgot to take the things to Sachs, the lawyer, and thence he had nothing to take to Sassower, Center for Judicial Accountability. He went to Office Essentials, and he did some grocery shopping, and he came home. So, I have an audio tape to play you. The time is 7:35 I cannot reach anybody at Mount Vernon High School to pick up a chat with Glendora, which is supposed to be on tonight, half an hour ago, and to take in new 3/4 inch tapes. Nobody answers the phone, it's just a recorder.
Yeah, I played your tape. All of the audio tape recordings
on this tape have been put on videotape for the TV program. So we start over again. This is October the 11th, 2000, Wednesday, and it is a perfect, perfect autumn day. Clear blue sky, warm, no wind, no rain. Thank you, God. October 12th, Columbus Day, 10:12 a.m. on 10/12, Thursday. Calling the Indianapolis Court, 1317. 1317. 229. Senior judge. 100. Okay, listen to this, folks. We want to hear crookedness in action.
Clerk, Secretary, to go, may I help you?
Judge Dolan, please.
Okay, would you like to speak with his clerk?
Yes, could I have that number, please?
Okay, one moment. I'm transferring the call to Cindy Urick.
Urick?
Yeah, she's the case administrator for Judge Dillon.
Okay, how do you spell Urick? Y-U-R-I-C-K?
U-R-I-C-H.
U-R-I-C-H. And her first name is?
Cindy.
Sandy. And her extension is?
Okay, her direct number? Okay, one moment, please. It's
229
229-3920.
3920. Can you transfer me?
Sure. One moment, please.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Cindy Urick. I'm the case administrator for Judge Foster and Judge Dillon. I'm either on my phone or away from my desk, so please leave a message with your cause number, and I'll be sure to...
Let's try the operator.
Hold on while I try that extension. What may I help you?
Yes, is this the clerk's office?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I was connected to Cindy Urick, and she's loafing. Nobody's there, and I need some information.
Okay, what kind of information do you need?
Okay, the case number is 1276.
Okay.
Glendora versus Trafficante.
Okay.
Okay. The case was wrongfully dismissed, and no, that neither the clerk nor the judge sent me a notice of appeal form or told me where to appeal the case, to appeal the...
So you want to appeal it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, I'm going to do another thing. I'm going to sue the judge. I'm going to appeal it.
Okay.
What is it's the 7th Circuit, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, may I please have the address of the 7th Circuit?
Let me transfer you to our appeals clerk because he'll...
Okay, I hope he's working, okay? And I hope it isn't another telephone recorder.
Well, and Cindy's working and he is too, but we are sometimes really busy here in Los, and they are working. But I'm going to transfer you to his telephone, okay?
Well, we hope so. Thank you.
You're welcome. This is Peggy.
Oh, Peggy, are you the appeals clerk?
No, I'm not. You need to talk to Greg Neiman.
No, I need to know right now. What is the address of the 7th Circuit?
Oh, for the 7th Circuit?
Uh-huh. What is the address?
Well, he would be the one to have that address. Let me transfer you to...
No, wait a second. The operator, I told her that Sandy Urick was loafing, okay? And she says, I'll have to transfer you to the appeals clerk to get that information. And I said, I hope the appeals clerk is not loafing. And here he is. He's loafing.
Who is this?
This is Glendora, and I'm calling about my case, which is number 1276.
And Judge Dillon was wrong in not including the notice of appeal and the address of the Seventh Circuit. When he wrongfully dismissed the court, he did everything wrong. And he didn't, he's supposed to send a notice that I can appeal this and where it can be appealed. So I called
I'm trying to give that to you. I just have to get it for you. So hold on a minute.
Okay, they cost money, you know. Turn off recorder. So much for U.S. District Courts. They're bad all over, folks. It's 10:45 a.m. on October 12th. This is the United States District Court in Indianapolis. What is the case? It's the Neanderthal court officer, New York court officer, number 1763, who attacked Glendora and her TV camera when Glendora went in to pay a parking fine, moving the car on a street cleaning day. And I'm calling back, okay? I'm on hold here, and that costs money.
U.S. District Court Clerk's Office.
Is this Evelina?
No.
Okay, she switched me over to the appeals clerk, and as I told her in advance, the appeals clerk would be loafing. And she put me on hold, and this costs a whole lot of money, and I'm in forma pauperis. What's
your question?
The question is simply, what's the address of the Seventh Circuit?
And the appeal clerk could not give that to you.
The appeals clerk wasn't there, and Sandy Urich wasn't there.
Okay.
And nobody else is there.
Ma'am, I'm going to give you that address.
Okay.
It's the 7th Circuit. It's at 219 South Dearborn Street.
One moment, please. D-E-A-R-B-O-R-N Street. Yep.
Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago, Illinois.
Zip code is 60604.
60604. Okay, and the telephone number, please.
Area code 312-435-5850.
Oh, thanks. 5850, and the name of the chief judge.
Couldn't I help you with that?
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Okay, now, Judge Dillon was wrong to dismiss the case.
Hey, ma'am, I'm on the other line with...
I don't care if you're on the other line or not. He was wrong to dismiss it, and he was wrong not to send the information to appeal.
You want to...
He was wrong not to send the information to appeal. Now, just run away and be a fugitive the way he is. He should have sent that.
Are you done yelling?
He should have sent that. Do you hear me?
Ma'am?
He was remiss in dismissing the order and the case, and he was remiss in not notifying me that it could be appealed. So he's sound asleep and he's senile. Goodbye. Okay, I am so tired of these senior judges who think they're appointed for life, and they're not. They're appointed for good behavior, and his behavior is bad, and he should step down, or he should be forced to step down. Who is this judge? S. Hugh Dillon, D-I-L-L-I-N. So what do you think that all cost? It must have been what, about $3, $4? Well, we'll put down 3. Give him the benefit of the doubt. You do. We'll sue the guy, certainly. He's an idiot. And, well, shall we appeal it? If we appeal it, that'll tie it up for a number of months, maybe a year or two. Or we file it in another court. It'll be interesting to go to the 7th Circuit and see if they're as bad as the 2nd Circuit, the 1st Circuit, the 5th Circuit, and the 3rd Circuit. The 1st is Boston, the 2nd is New York, the 3rd is Philadelphia, and the 5th is New Orleans. Now this one is Chicago. Or I could file a Rule 60B motion, but this guy is just no good at all. I could file a notice of appeal. I could file in another court. I could sue Dillon. And I decided to call the court. Well, I've done that. So what should we do, folks? Help them. You see, they all got caught loafing. Not doing the job. And you're paying them $130,000 a year plus.
The notice of appeal, folks, goes to the lower court. Well, it's only reasonable because they're the ones who have to gather up the record on appeal and send it to the Court of Appeals. The same old story in every court. I hope it happens to you because you have no place to go. Let's appeal it. Let's appeal it. What were the options? A Rule 60B motion, a notice of appeal, file in another court. A Rule 60B motion is for relief of judgment. File in another court, sue Dolan. Okay, so right or wrong, the Rule 60B is no good because this guy is hopeless. Okay, so we'll do a notice of appeal. It'll be hung up in an appeals court forever, but we will find out what that court is like. And then when the appeals court gets through with it, we will file it in another court because they don't rule on the merits. And certainly we'll sue Dylan no matter what we do. So let's go with the appeal. I'll go get a notice of appeal. A notice of appeal has to be filed in 30 days. Oh, we got to get that out because that's 30 days is this dippy order was signed September 13th, if you can read his old man's writing. And it was, and tomorrow's the 13th, so we just have to do this in a hurry. It's not.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Been telephoning?
No, never got to it, Franklin. I found out that I don't know what to do about Dylan in Indianapolis and Court Officer 1763 who attacked me and my camera.
Yes.
When I went in to pay a parking fine.
Yes.
And there were several options, you know, to sue him, to appeal it, a Rule 60B motion. So I thought about it and I called the court. He sent no notices of appeal the way he should have, you know, and told me I could have appealed it.
Right.
And so I decided to appeal it. But an appeal has to be in 13 days.
Is there time?
He dismissed the case, 30 days, excuse me, and he dismissed the case on the 13th. So, today's the 12th. It's got to get in today.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's where I got hung up,
I see.
and that's where I am now.
Right.
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Oh, good. Where'd you go first?
I went to Harrison first.
Oh, yeah. And you see Ralph
Yeah.
Capella?
Yeah. He wanted to say hello.
How is he?
He's fine.
Well, that's good. I thought he looked awfully tired the last time.
Oh.
Okay, and you got the tapes?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And then I went to Staples
Thank you.
and got the things.
Heroin.
No, the other one.
Cheryl.
Yes, he showed up again. So she was my personal shopper. I didn't have to go to any of the shelves. She brought everything to me.
That's good. Did you meet Carolyn?
I told her she was my personal shopper. She liked that. Wanted to be remembered to you.
Yeah, she likes Frankie.
vacation.